Hey friends, you are with Kim Byers at the Celebration Shop, and today I'm going to show you how to make vinyl decals, and I'm going to show you how to apply them. So vinyl is one of those really amazing products that you can put on so many different things. Today I'm going to be putting this design on my kitchen wall. It's something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time, and today I'm just going to get it done. But you can use vinyl on mugs and on tumblers. You can use it on wood. You can put vinyl decals on your car. You can do so many different things with vinyl. But let's hop over to Cricut Design Space. I'm going to show you what we're going to do, and then we'll go over to the craft table, we'll cut it out, and I will show you how to actually apply it using transfer tape. Okay, so and if you like what I'm doing here today, I hope you'll give me a thumbs up, and I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join me every week for new videos. Okay, let's get going. Okay, so here we are in Cricut Design Space, and I've just opened up a new canvas. So when you come into the home page, there will be an opportunity to have a new canvas, and so you just select new. If you're already in Cricut Design Space, new is right here at the top. So basically I just opened a new canvas, and then I brought in my design. So what you do if you want to bring in a new design, and I have a complete video on this and I'll link it up above, but basically you would use the upload feature here, and then that video is super quick and it'll show you all about how to do that and which ones you want to use, SVG versus PNG. Okay, so since we have it, I'm just going to cancel out of that. And now that we have this on our canvas, the important thing is to measure your space. So when I designed this in Illustrator, I went ahead and made sure that these were the same distance apart, each one of these pieces or these elements. So if you like the way that it's laid out, you don't have to worry about any of this spacing. If you want to make gather larger, or if you want to make something else bigger or smaller, you can do that because I saved them as individual lines. So you're able to, make those shifts. If you want to cut it all at one time and attach it to the wall or the book or whatever you're putting it on all at one time, you can also do that just by selecting everything and attaching them. I am actually going to change the size of this a little bit. So if you look at it right now, if we select all, it is currently 9 by 6. So the wall that I'm using it on, it can be 24 inches by 11. So I'm going to be using the large mat with my Cricut, and I'm going to make this whole thing bigger. So now that I've selected everything, I can just drag it. Or I can go up into size here and say, okay, I know I want that to be as much as 24 inches. So let's just see how, and okay, it makes it taller than I can have it for this particular space. So at this point, I'm gonna make this small. You can do one of two things. You can either take the word gather. So if we click off of it, take the word gather and hide it, and then make the other elements proportionate to the size that you want, and then put gather back in, and then you can resize it. Or if you like it just the way it is, can select all, make this just a smidge smaller. Then I can go into size and say that I don't want it to be any taller, and that's really my issue with my wall. I can't have it any taller than 11 inches because there's things already hanging there. So if I do that, then it makes the entire thing 16 inches, which is fine. Okay, so now that we have a design that works, and I've selected Maker, so here's where you can choose between the Joy, the Maker, or if you have a Cricut Explore. So today we're going to use the Maker, and what I want to do is I am going to quickly hide, gather, and I'm going to grab these two lines, and they're already attached. Fantastic. And then I'm going to grab these 3 lines, and they're already attached. Fantastic. Okay, so we'll turn gather back on. And now when we go to make it, it's going to ask you that if you can use the bigger mat. And we're going to say okay. Okay, so now that we have that, we can reduce this so we can see. I always recommend that you go over in the left-hand side and just make sure you have one copy. You're cutting, the material size is 12 by 24, so we're using the large mat. And then this is how it works out on the mat. So if you wanted to at this point, you could click on any of these items and move them closer together. So for instance, I moved this one up, and that allows me to not have more than 16 inches of my vinyl being used. And if you wanted to, obviously you could go in and separate these lines and stack them and then just attach them to the wall individually. I just don't want to have to do all the measuring when I get to the wall, and I'll be able to cut this piece out and save it for another project, and I'll probably even cut that piece out as well. Okay, so since this is vinyl and not iron-on, we will not mirror, and it's ready to continue. Okay, so now we can select our material. So we're going to be using vinyl, and so you can select premium vinyl if you don't already have it in your favorites, or you can go to browse all materials, and then they're grouped by type, and you can go down and check those out. And then compatible, especially as when it's with the Joy, it would tell you if that item, was not compatible for your machine. So, but you would be able to select there. Okay, so since we already have it, premium vinyl. Okay, and so now we don't need anything in clamp A, and we have the fine point blade in B, and we're ready to go ahead over to the craft table and load the vinyl onto the mat, and we'll start cutting. Okay, so here we are on the craft table. Let me walk you through what we've got today. So I have the green mat, the standard mat that's a 12 by 24. I have my weeding tool and my scraper. I have my paper trimmer, which I actually use to trim out all my vinyl and everything else. I find that this keeps me from wasting material, and it keeps all of my edges straight and clean, and so I don't have to, have jagged. I have a problem with jagged edges. So the other thing I have is my vinyl. So I'm going to be using just a solid black vinyl today, just because my letters are kind of small, but I wanted to show you guys the patterned vinyl. So when you're thinking about vinyl projects, just keep this in mind. There is some really fun patterned vinyl. And so these are just two that I have on hand. I'm not going to use them today, but I wanted you guys to see those. And then I'm going to use transfer tape. This is your best friend when it comes to vinyl. This will save your sanity. It is completely worth getting transfer tape. Okay, so let's clear this out of the way, and I'll show you how to cut out your vinyl and put it on the mat, and we'll move it over to the machine. Okay, so what I love most about this is it has this ruler going this way, and then it has a ruler, might be difficult to see, but going this way. And so I'm able to actually measure the entire piece all at one time. So I'm going to take my vinyl, pull it out, and this is going to be 16 inches. And so it literally goes to 15 and a half. So I'm going to just guesstimate and probably do over just a smidge. Okay, so there we go. And so then I'm going to be able to just cut it all the way. But if I needed, for instance, 4 inches by 16, the nice thing about this is I could pull it down to the 4-inch mark and then just cut the 4, and then I would be able to go and cut the other side. And so everything would be straight. So this little guy is my best friend. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is I want to put my vinyl on my sheet. So I'm going to take off the protective layer. And this mat is a 12 by 24. I'm going to take my vinyl, and this part's a little tricky. I actually do it like this. I take it and I roll it backwards. Try not to bend anything, but I take it and roll it backwards. And so then I pinch it on both sides, okay? And then I bring my mat down. And I start up at the top because I don't want my vinyl to touch. Okay, and so I'm just gonna push that along. I'm gonna take my scraping tool, okay, my scraping tool, and then I'm just going to slowly start putting my vinyl down. You do not want bubbles. Hold it up, and actually let's just flip it around so you can see. And we don't want any bubbles. We're already getting a few, but you just have to be patient with these bigger pieces and take your scraping tool and put it into place. Okay, and there you go. So now we're ready to take that over to mat. Okay, so here we are at the Cricut Maker. So we want to load our mat. and then we'll hit cut. Okay, so here we are back on the craft table, and so this is a large piece of vinyl. What we want to do is we want to remove or bend the mat, not the vinyl, okay? So bend your mat, not your vinyl. The next thing we want to do is we want to weed our vinyl. And so I actually am going to start weeding out the insides of some of these letters before I cut the elements apart. So remember, I have them in segments. So I have some lines here, and I have the big word gather, and then I have another over here. And this is just my transfer tape. I'm using it to hold down my vinyl because it still wants to curve a little bit. Now this would be a great time to use a bright pad if you have one and you're having any difficulty seeing all of these small pieces. So with black, I don't have as much trouble with black as I do with some colors, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go freehand. Okay, so now that I've weeded out lots of the center pieces, and again, everybody has their own way of doing this. This is just mine. I'm going to go ahead and cut out those areas that I told you I would probably save. So I'm going to go in, and then once I do this, I will cut out all or weed out all of the negative space from the design. Okay, so now I'm going to take my weeding tool, and we're going to get out all the rest of the negative space for each of the designs. And see, the big stuff comes up easy. Okay, and so here we are all weeded out. One tip when you are weeding really small things, you can use your tool to sort of hold a letter down while you pull away the excess around it. This just will help you keep the letter in place, especially like little dots on the eye and that kind of thing. So just remember that when you're weeding really tiny elements. Okay, so now the next thing that we want to do is we want to get out our transfer tape, and we are going to start with the biggest item because I want to make sure that it's in the center of the space. And so we're going to do it first, and then we'll put the top and the bottom on. Okay, so I've cut out a piece of transfer tape the size that we're going to need for this particular project, and it has its own set of rules. It's not hard, but first you just want to peel away the corner, and then you want to take your scraping tool. And so what I like to do is I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to put it down on top of my design at one corner, and then I'm going to use my scraping tool to sort of remove it from its backer. I don't want any bubbles. Okay, so now that I have my transfer tape on, I'm going to start in that same corner that I put the transfer tape on with, and I'm just going to pick up the transfer tape and then slowly pick up my design. And if something like this happens and it doesn't want to pick up, just gently pick up the element, attach it to the transfer tape. Okay, there we go. We got the whole thing. So I'm going to turn it upside down, and this piece got cut, so there we go. Okay, and so now what I want to do is I just want to go over to my wall and make sure that I know exactly where I want to put it, and maybe even put, whoops, a little pencil mark on it so that when I apply it to the wall, I know it's in the right place. And then I'm actually going to use the same piece of transfer tape to do the other two pieces of the design. Okay, so this is the area of the wall that I want to put this design, and so I have this space directly below this photo, but my design, remember, is now 16 inches. So I want to put it roughly here. So I want to center it with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure my photo. It's 28 inches, so my center point is 14. So my center point is 14. And so I'm going to put a small dot on the wall right here. And then I'm going to measure the distance between these two, which is 15. So I'll put another dot at 7.5. And so then I'll know that is the absolute center point for the word gather. Okay, so I have a dot on the wall now. I've marked my dot right here. So what I want to do is I want to take the word gather and I'm going to basically fold it in half, kind of like taco here. And I measure so that I know that where I want my 7.5 point is just behind the curl of the H. So what I want to do is I want to put my dot right there, okay? And so now what I want to do is I'm going to take my scraping tool, go in, and then work outward. And this way I know I don't have any bubbles. Okay. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take our transfer tape away, and so it should just pull away and stays on the wall. You can always go over it, you know, one more time like this just to make sure it's exactly where you want it and it's all down. But then once you start to peel the transfer tape away, if it pulls up for any reason, you can always use your scraping tool to kind of hold that lettering down. Peel at an angle. Like if you guys have ever watched me do iron-on, you peel at an angle. See, that one's going to want to come up. So I'm going to use my scraping tool. Just be gentle with it. Make sure you get all bubbles and things out. Okay, now for the last piece. So when I look at the design that I originally put together, the word more kind of comes in a little bit close to the loop, so we know. And the nice thing about this, guys, these grids will help you keep everything in a line. So I'm going to put it about right there. I'm going to start on one side. So I'm putting my E in place and just using the scraping tool to make sure there's no bubbles and to get it all the way down. And then peeling at an angle. And so you can take your scraping tool if there's any letters that act like they want to come up. You can always scrape them down and then hold them too if you feel like you need to. Okay, so what did you think? So it's actually really simple, right? So I'm hoping that you will make something with vinyl. I hope you liked what we did here today. And don't forget, hop down below. I am giving you the SVG that I used today for free if you want to use it. The SVG, the PNG, and the JPEG. And I hope that you'll hop down and check out all the materials that we used today as well. And I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join me every week for new videos. Okay, guys, see you next time.